So yes, without further ado, let me pass it over to Marty Podskoch.
Thank you very much, Carly. We're gonna have a little contest today, and give a little prize. So Carly's gonna keep track of the points.
Okay.
So I'll ask a question and you pretend you're in seventh grade. So that's where I spent most of my time teaching reading. Raise your hand and don't yell out the answer. Otherwise we can't give you points and you won't win a nice little prize. So these are the books that I have written and I'll be talking about today at the chair, just in case I have to take a little rest. Yesterday I was driving from Connecticut, all of the eastern part of the Adirondacks. Today I'm going through the sort of the northern part, and tomorrow will be the western part. Because you gotta not only write the book, then you gotta sell them. I have 6 pallets of books in Connecticut, my garage. And I'm 82 years old, so I've got to get rid of these books. Otherwise, my poor wife and kids won't know what to do. But these are 4 of the books that are left out of my 6 that I have done on the Adirondacks. And I'll be talking about them. Now, the first question is having to do with Latin. Anybody here take Latin? Okay, so maybe you might be good at this one. So raise your hand if you know what this Latin term, I think most people might know. Yes.
Seize the day.
Seize the day, 10 points. So that's after watching Dead Poets Society. I really like that motto for myself, seize the day. So this is what I've been doing in retirement. 25 years. I retired in 2001. So I've been able to knock off 12 books. I have my new book up there, of Vermont. But it started by doing the Catskill fire towers, then the Adirondacks. Then I started doing travel books. And then I got into the Civilian Conservation Corps camps, which there was one right here in Canton in Pierpont. And Terry knows a little bit about that. So we'll get into that. So I'm going to give you a little smidgen of each one. And then when it's about 5-0, then we'll award the prize. And so I first taught school in New Jersey. I'm from around Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I went to New Jersey. And then I met my wife, who was a farm girl from Connecticut and also New York State, Dutchess County. And she also had one in Schenectady County. But we didn't want to live in New Jersey. Anybody from New Jersey here? Nobody? But we were able to get a job in a little town called Delhi, in the Catskills. Anybody ever hear of Delhi? Yes. Okay. Believe it or not, I was at the Bookstore Plus in Lake Placid. No, I was, where the heck was I? And a lady said, oh, my daughter is at Delhi studying architecture, 5 years, Delhi Tech. So I was there for 33 years and I taught reading, try to get my kids interested in reading. And we had an old farmhouse right along the Delaware River. And it was run down, a fraternity house, empty for 2 years. And we got it 10 acres and all that for $27,500. Good deal. That was in 1974. Everybody said, you're crazy, burn it. But we fixed it up and raised our 3 kids. And right across the road was the Delaware River, West Branch. And above was a fire tower, which I didn't even know, but it came down that following year. And just last year, they resurrected it. They put it back up on the mountain, Bramley Mountain. So I think I've had a little bit of effect on getting people started, especially the Hurricane fire tower. They were going to rip that down and put it in Washington County at that county fair. And The one on St. Regis too, they wanted to take down, right by Paul Smith's college. And I taught in a little school, it was called Delaware Academy. It was built by Franklin Roosevelt. One of his projects was the WPA. So for 10 points, what does WPA stand for? Yes,
Works Progress Administration.
10 points for you, right? Okay, can you imagine that? Look at the beauty. It was finished in 1937, and a lot of times it's type of architecture. You can look around New York State, you'll see other duplicates. Roosevelt put young guys to work in the forest, CCCs, but in the towns, they had the WPA in 1935, CCCs in 33. So the librarian said, Marty, let's have a book fair and have a real author come. Because we've been to reading conferences, you know, you get these famous authors coming. So this one boy came up to me, he said, Mr. Podskoch, you know, My Side of the Mountain by Gene George is all about Delhi, where I'm teaching. I said, you're crazy. Anybody here ever read My Side of the Mountain? One person? It's a great story about a boy leaving New York City, trying to find his Grandpa Gribley's farm, and he lives in the woods for the fall, winter, and spring, tames a hawk, you know, hunting and living off the land. He went to our library, Cannon Free Library. So it's all there. So this boy said, it's all done, you know, it's all about Delhi. I couldn't believe it when I read. So I looked in the back of the book and it said, the author is from New York State, and I got the phone number. Okay, boy. Does anybody know where, let's see, this, where's my brain? I've been on the road. What famous town is Bill and Clinton living in New York State? Raise your hand if you know, because that's where she's from. Nobody? Well, maybe I'll get to it.
Like county or?
No, down in Washington, Westchester County. No, well, I dialed the number and I got her and I invited her to come and she came. Because, you know, and she didn't even charge. So I told 15 other writers that Gene George was coming. And from one day I had K through 12, 15 writers. So I did it for 25 years. 15 to 20 writers, and some stayed at my house. This next author stayed at my house. Who knows this famous children's writer, illustrator? Yes.
Is it maybe Theodore Seuss Geisel?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
John Silverstein, no, sorry.
No.
No, sorry. I didn't read the name.
Is it where the wild things are?
No.
No.
This is Eric Carl.
Oh, wow.
He wrote The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Molly, did your parents ever read that to you?
Yeah.
Well, he stayed at my house, made him breakfast, and my daughter sat on his lap and he read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Can you imagine? I had Ann Martin, the babysitter, writer, for dinner. Sounder, Bill Armstrong, from Catskills for Boys. The guy who wrote the movie Casablanca in 1943. All you had to do is ask. And then you could tell somebody else, you know, other writers, well, such and such is coming. So then I became a writer because I went to this fire tower on Hunter Mountain. An observer said, hey, this is the greatest job in the world. I mean, thousands of people. So I told the publisher in 87, hey, somebody should write a book. Called me 10 years later. He said, Marty, they're trying to save the towers. How would you like to write a book? Me, write a book? So it took me 2 years, 3 years, but I finally got it done. And then I came to the Adirondacks. So I came to the Adirondacks, and this is a story, St. Regis Tower right here. In fact, I just went through Gabriel's. And I looked across the street, there's where Agnes, forgot her last name, but her husband standing on top of that mountain. And I got the story and put that in the book. So these different stories about people and, who tell us, who were up in the towers or the children or wives. So I think you'd really like reading the books about the fire towers. Now, they'll give you a little history of them. So this is what I've done, 3 books on fire towers, and I thought, that was it, but then I started getting to the CCCs too. But I had a children's illustrator, he did my covers for this one and this one, and he did this one too. So I went from the Catskills to the Adirondacks, the 6 million acres. And then I started a lady in Inland. She used to send writers and get guest speakers going all over the Adirondacks for free talks. So I went all over the Adirondacks giving talks, and people came and shared their stories, their pictures. And I was able to interview a lot of people from these, and I didn't have to stay in motels. I just stayed with the common people. And I've been doing that in Vermont too. All these little towns, they take me in for the night. Who's taking me in tonight? Caitlin. I got a place.
You can stay at my house, but not, got a lot of.
Well, here's a family, like whenever I need a place to go, they were on Ampersand Mountain, Cuddie, and then his brother took over after him. But he married Frances, and on their honeymoon, he had the job up there. And then all the Riendos started coming up and visiting. They said, hey, could you watch our kids? So they wound up with all the relatives in Tucker Lake going up to that mountain. So they have a little cabin outside, so I get to stay there. But terrible fires in 1903, these forest fires, the state didn't know what to do. So they heard about one state that started fire towers in 1905, 10 points. Does anybody know what state had the first fire towers? Big guess? California? Good try. The answer? Oh boy, the answer is coming up later on, but it was Maine. And from that, the commissioner of forestry, he said, we're going to start that too. But what was the principal cause of these fires up in the Adirondacks? Anybody know? Yes. Railroads. And correct. 10 points for Terry. And how did that start the fires, Terry?
Sparks from the exhaust.
Right, up the chimney or whatever, the stack.
Stack.
Okay, and a lot of times too, they would take the ashes and just dump them down, on the tracks. So railroads were the biggest cause, burning brush. How many of you had parents too burning stuff? The leaves, oh my God. And then you'd be running out to trying to put the fire out when the wind came. Fishermen left their camp. There was no such thing as Smokey the Bear, telling that smokers would just throw their cigarettes. Sometimes you ever see that people throw their cigarettes out, you could see the sparks, and people just started the fires. Here are the hunters, and I got into big trouble. I was in Tupper Lake in the synagogue giving a talk. And I said, it was those lazy lumbermen who left all these tops of the trees and the trains went by and caught on fire. Boy, did I get it. So I learned, you don't say that. But later on, they made a law that there had to be only a certain part of the tree, and it was not really a big tops, etc. left there. So they were making laws to make it prevent the fires. And look, they had people putting out the fire with buckets, brigades. So where was the first fire tower built in the Adirondacks? Well, I had the slides screwed up. When I get back to Connecticut, I'll put straight down. There's the one about the main, which should have been back there. But there's the first one, and it was on Tupper Lake Mountain. No, the other one. Where the fire tower is now. Ski area. My brain is frozen right now too, from being on the road. It'll come to me. But that was the first observer, okay? And Mount Morris. Okay. Well, look at the one they had on Whiteface. He was just in a tent. How many have been up Whiteface Mountain? You know how cool it gets there. Okay, look at Gorman. I went by there today. Just went by there. But look at the observer. Can you imagine on a hot day like today, looking for smoke? And look at his little cabin. In the springtime, that's what they found, you know, in April when they were coming to watch for fires. But look at this one. I just met a guy too at Stewart's today, and he said he was from Pasico. And right below Pasico is this Tammany Mountain. And can you imagine climbing this tower? Here's a guy having a drink either before he went up, or after to celebrate. I just can't believe this. Can you imagine? Look at the railing. And I don't like heights. Yeah, I've written 3 books on fire towers. I can't get up into all these towers. One is 80 foot. Never get me up there. Okay. Oh, next question. Raise your hand. What's the highest tree that they use this for their tower observer? Highest growing tree in the Adirondacks.
200 feet.
That's pretty far. Somebody wants to guess?
You went the height of the high street?
No,
Oh,
not
what
the
type of
height.
tree?
What species of trees grow the tallest? White pine. White pine. Okay. Now, down by Lake George, there was a hotel up on Prospect Mountain. So the state said, would you mind if our observer could be up there? No problem. So for years, the observer was watching, you know, for smoke. And guess what happened to the hotel? Caught fire and burned it. So the state had to build a regular steel tower. And that eventually was taken down. Those wooden towers didn't last. Okay, just like make these decks, you know, you're pressure treated, but still you get rocked. So they hired this company from Chicago, Air Motor, and they made the windmills for the farmers. You see those windmills? I passed one on my way of St. Regis Falls, a little one. So they made it, there would be like a room up there, 7 foot by 7 foot with glass windows and a roof. So now the observer could be able to have protection, but they had to go to the top of, you know, the mountain, the high one that would tower would be. Tebow was from Owl's Head in the northern part below Malone. And he supervised the building. The horses pulled it up. And I found this a little west at this one house. The lady brought out her uncle's book. And here they're using Babbitt. They're heating tin, copper, and antimony in order to hold these bolts into the ground. And can you imagine they still have these towers are up just using that antimony? Isn't that amazing? So some of these towers are 100 years old. Kegshaw Mountain, it wasn't used anymore, so parts of it, plus the West Mountain, are in Elizabethtown. If you ever go to Elizabethtown, The Historical Society there has a fire tower right next to their building. So you go right from the museum in there. So each tower had a telephone. It just had copper wire going through the woods, you know, and those glass, what do they call them?
Insulators.
Insulators, okay? And when a tree came and knocked it off, that observer would have to go and walk down until he could find it and repair it. Because if he didn't have that phone working, he couldn't call the ranger to be able to get to the fire. So they had many jobs, and they were only there from April till about October. Then they got map tables. Okay, and this is an Alidade. I have one at home, I should have brought it. But they would look, when they would spot a fire, and there would be a certain degree on the table. So they would call up the observer, or the ranger, district headquarters, and tell them what it was. And then another person on another tower over here would spot it this way. What do they call this? To find the location using two or more.
Triangulation.
Triangulation. Mike is on the board. Okay. And then they started getting the Indian tanks. You know where Indian tanks are made? Utica. I had a lady in the audience. She said, my brother owns the factory. I get to meet so many interesting people. I mean, I was at this restaurant yesterday in Hadley, and this guy walks in with cowboy boots, you know, and spurs on them, you know. So it turns out that he is one of these ropers, and he's a championship one. And the ladies in the diner said, look out the window. There was this big Dodge Ram truck pulling a trailer, which was all decorated and with his name on it, that he won at a contest in Vegas. It held 9 horses, old 9 horses, and he goes from all over the United States. So as I said, I meet a lot of interesting people. So move on. Scotch. Okay. So they found out that after putting up fire towers, different locations, spotting, and getting to that fire right at its beginning stage, guess what happened? The amount of acreage decreased just in that 20-year period. People love to go to the fire tower. How many here have been to a fire tower? Which one?
It wasn't around here, it was in a different state, I think Vermont, I can't remember
Vermont?
where though.
Barry?
Cadmill in Colton.
Wow, I was there.
Many years ago, yes.
And that was taken over by St. Lawrence College too, the cabin down below.
Yep.
The lodge. And Mike? Molly?
I've been to Arab and one other one near Tupper Lake, but I don't remember what it was called. It might have been Morris, I'm not sure.
Morris.
Yeah.
That's the one there, okay? So now here's a question. These towers became so popular that in 1921, which one of those towers had the most visitors? And they'd love to hear the stories about the observers that he had, you know, about animals around there, different things. Anybody? Mike, want to take a camel?
I would say B, maybe Prospect, just because it's at Lake George.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
See,
C, Hadley. Okay, Hadley wasn't even put up then, but the answer is ball. Look, 4,000. Look, a blue came in second. Oh, Hadley was, you're right, 155. Okay, so this was in 1921, and if you go to Old Forge, thousands of people every week go to Bald Mountain. It's an easy climb. Anybody do that one, Bald Mountain? It's a nice, easy one. Okay, so here, in Raybrook, which I just passed the office today, Bill Petty was the district ranger, and these circles indicate where the fire towers were. So we told you, we figured out when this guy saw it this way, this guy this way, you get that triangulation. And then they sent rangers and wardens. Did you ever hear of wardens, fire wardens? People just could be a barber or somebody, they leave their job to put out a fire. Fire wardens, they have tools, there's the triangulation. Okay, and I've got unbelievable stories too, like bear coming right into the cabin with two guys. Then World War II came. Hey, we needed women to take the place of the men who were out, fighting the Germans and Japanese. By 1960, there were in New York State 114 towers. Look at that. Then in the 1970s, they heard that Canada started closing their towers because they were just sending up airplanes when it was hot, dry, and windy. The more chance of fire. So they would hire local pilots like Herb Helms from Long Lake, and he would go and have a certain route. And another pilot would have another one. The Lake Placid guy, I flew with him. Bird had one down in this part, and they started doing away with the towers until finally by 1990 there were only 4 towers left in the whole state. They were abandoned. We had 3 towers: Hadley, Blue, and St. Regis. Why save these towers? Can anybody give me one reason why for 10 points? Why should we save these fire towers? Instead of
They're historic.
the history about it, how they had saved so much of our forest. Any other reason? They're cool for tourists. If you take people, many people I've met people that I visited a fire tower and I saw gorgeous views. And from that day, I wanted to become a forester. Yeah, appreciation. I even gave talks to kids. Now look at all the towers though. After 1990, you had groups of people close by here, Blue Mountain, Azure Mountain. How many have been to that one? Okay, that was saved by local people from Potsdam, Canton, and that whole area through there. And they still have volunteers to take care of the trail, even people to take up rocks and just maintain the trails. Here's Mount Arab. Were you a volunteer at all? Or just Terry, did you do any volunteer work?
Took the 3rd grade class up there.
Did you?
Yes,
Were you a teacher?
chaperone.
Oh, chaperone. And that one, they had this guy up there for a long time. We'd go up there with his 2 dogs and stay at the cabin. They'd restore the cabin. There it is. 98 hurricane. As I told you, they were supposed to take this down. I remember I went to the 4th graders there in Keene. And I said, why should we save it? And this little boy raised his hand and said, every time I get out there waiting for my school bus, I can look at the hurricane tower and I don't want to see it go. And those people fought. I got them all riled up, and I got this old lady in her 80s. She got thousands of signatures and got Cuomo's son, governor. He said, I'm going to set aside 1 acre. It's wilderness area, but historic. And the same thing with St. Regis. He saved the towers. His father would not save Pharaoh. Somebody came at night, cut 2 legs, the wind came, toppled it over. And the people of Scroon Lake, they were guarding the road with guns, etc. They didn't want anybody to take that tower down. Okay, then somebody had these pictures of the civilian conservation force. So I went from the men and women up in the tower and the rangers protecting our forest here, the Adirondacks, Catskills, to the men who built up the forest, planting billions of trees all over the United States. So these are all the location. So here's Canton. Okay, there was the Pierpont one up here, close to Potsdam. Fraser Falls, right outside of St. Regis Falls had one. But these are all the spots that had CCC camps. And you read about it, plus 100 guys, I interviewed 100 guys. The stories just fantastic. They quit school to get a job. Now, this is my new cover from Vermont. People, and what my wife said, Marty, this is your last book. You're 82 years old and I don't want you driving. Like, I drove 450 yesterday and I'm gonna drive another 400 today. But I went to Connecticut. I said, why drive to the Adirondacks when I could do the 21 towers here? So I lived right here. But then when my daughter moved to Florida and my granddaughters went to school in Tampa, we moved all the way over here to be close to our grandkids that live up here in Reading, where let's see, Mark Twain died finally. He lived. And then in the town that I live in, Helen Keller lived for 37 years. So now this is very populous. Okay, then I went to Rhode Island and did the 7 because this guy wanted to find his father's camp. So I did that. Then I went to Vermont, 36 camps. It was all according to population, but the population was low, but they had a forester that grew up in Westport in the Adirondacks. He went to Syracuse and he rose to the rank of the head of the forestry. And he was able to go to Washington and get other states' allotments. So that's why he was able to get more camps. And they brought in boys from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York City into Vermont. Then when these CCC boys got older, they got together and they wanted to convince the government that we should start the CCC. They were unsuccessful. They also built museums. Now, New York State, I don't know if you have one below Rochester in Letchworth. They might have a museum there. Anybody ever go to, it's called the Letchworth State Park. The Grand Canyon, you go down and there's even a hotel down there. But they built all these trails. If you ever get a chance, it's gorgeous. Then the guys died out. So CCC Legacy, I was on the board, and you might be interested in that. I have forums that you could get information on, join that. And in the CCC Legacy, they have the mold. So they try to convince the states to put a CCC worker statue, and Letchworth has one. I was able to get this lady here, was able to raise $24,000 twice. I had 2 in Connecticut. In 1 year, I got 99, 104. I mean, and they still had the marbles. So I didn't grow up in the Depression, but my parents did, especially my mother. They came from Lithuania. My father's from Slovakia, and they worked in the coal mines. So my mother had 8 sisters and 1 brother. Father died. Everybody had to chip in, but many boys, 8th grade, they quit school. Just imagine 13, 14-year-old boys quitting school, wandering the streets. So Roosevelt saw that and he proposed, I'm going to start the Civilian Conservation Corps, which they called, he saw the United States was riddled with so much need for conservation. Look at they had to help the farmers in the Midwest, Dust Bowl, the place of the forestry. Colorado they'd have camps of 200 boys, all from Connecticut. They brought them in by train. So when he was elected, okay, he promised, or he went to Congress and he proposed the Emergency Conservation Work Act, which we call CCC. So it was an emergency, conservation, and it was work for people. Okay, he went to Congress on the 27th, and on the 31st, it passed the House and the Senate, just like today. Isn't it a shame? Nothing. Okay, but he got so many of these alphabet type of things. TVK. I met a guy yesterday from Tennessee. He said, I just loved going to the parks that were built by CCCs. And he wanted 250,000 boys in camp by July in 3 months. Who could give them food, clothing, and shelter and free medical care? Correct, 10 points. Right? And give them discipline too. So that's what you had all over the United States. They were given physical exams, World War I clothing, because full of things out of mothballs. Transport the boys by truck, bus, or train to different camps, and they had no choice. They told you where you're going once you signed up. They were giving nice clothing. They no longer had holes in their shoes. They had raincoats, nice warm clothing. How much were the boys paid a month or a day?
$30 a month.
Terry, correct, $1 a day. $1 a day. 25 went straight home to the parents. $5 spending money. Okay, and they lived in barracks. Can you imagine 40 boys in one big room, 18 to 25 years old? Really, can you imagine that? Being a teacher with 40. Okay, and everything had to be perfect. See everything? Some of the boys, they made their own chest. I have one at home, handmade. Okay, how many states were there in 1933? Yes.
I'm gonna go with 48.
48, Mike, 10 points. What other places, 6 other places were there camps besides the 48 states in 33? Who could name one more place? Mike. Terry.
Canada,
No,
Guam,
no,
why?
gotta raise your hand.
Oh,
Yes, Mike,
Alaska?
10 points. Where else?
Puerto Rico?
Correct, 10 points. Terry?
Saipan.
No.
Oh,
Beth?
Panama.
No.
The Caribbean.
What?
The Caribbean?
It's in the Caribbean with what 3 places?
Virgin Islands?
Virgin Islands, 10 points. Who can name one Virgin Island? 10 points.
Turks and Caicos are those?
No. St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. Okay, plus Hawaii. Okay, Virgin Islands. So each one had at least one camp. Okay, depending on population, except for Vermont. They were able to get more because they had shovel-ready projects ready to go. Okay, New York State, Pennsylvania, and all the southern states, you had white camps. You had black camps. Was there segregation? Were people prejudiced in the 30s? Were they prejudiced in 2026? You can't get away from it. But it was bad. Even in the military, in World War II, the blacks had separate units. All of New England was integrated. Why? One reason might be because they couldn't find 200 Afro-American or black boys in Rhode Island or Maine to set up a camp. Then the bonus army came in 1932 and 33. These were men who wanted a bonus that were promised just by fighting in World War I, but they were supposed to get in 1945. They're poor, they can't get a job. They came to Congress, please give us our bonus now. So who was president before? It's 10 points.
Hoover.
10 points for Mike. Okay, and what did Hoover do with the bonus army?
Sound to Hoovervilles.
He sent in the troops.
Okay.
Who did he send in? Who was the leader? MacArthur, Patton, and Eisenhower. Not to camp things down, burn them, even shot some of them. They were their families protesting in these hovels. So bonus army. So new president came, Roosevelt. Who does Roosevelt send to deal with these people, protesters? Last night, somebody in the audience knew. It starts with an E. No. She was the eyes and ears, she went on there. Now, boys, what's the problem? You don't have a job. She goes back, Franklin, hey, do you want to have protesters? We have sometimes presidents who don't mind protesters and dealing with killing and shooting just like they did there. But he said, okay, we're going to start veterans camps. So all throughout the United States, there were veterans camp. Vermont again, they got 5,000 veterans. I get the goosebumps coming from Virginia, all of New England, New York, to Barry, Vermont, building this earthen dam. 5,000. Can you imagine that? And if you go there, they built the Barry Dam, Wrightsville Dam, and the Waterbury Dam. Because these were controlling the waters coming into the Winooski River. So that's your Vermont education. Okay, we gotta go fast. There was also Indians, but they didn't leave the reservation. They had a captain. I had a guy in the audience. He said, my grandfather was in Illinois and he was the head of the camp. He was an army lieutenant. He was in charge of 200 families. Okay, then they had free medical care, dentistry. First, they lived in tents, and we have tents pictures. No. Where the
In
heck
the
is it?
case over there.
Oh, right here, of the prospect camp that one of the workers here, her grandfather was in the speculator camp.
Caitlin.
Caitlin. Okay, so they would get up 6 o'clock in the morning and they would work 7 hours a day, and they could eat as much as they wanted. So these boys gained sometimes up to 15 pounds in 6 weeks of working, physical labor. They built construction, roads, forestry, planting trees, fighting fires, pests, wildlife management, recreation development. And whenever there was a flood or hurricane, the boys came out and helped the townspeople. They would hire local experienced men to take a crew of boys, 8 to 14 men, and maybe teach them forestry because they were loggers. Or if they were masons, they could show them building things in the parks. Planting billions of trees, fighting fires. They'd have a lunch break for their 8 hours. Fought the caterpillars. They call them now. No, they call them woolly
Angela's.
No, that's a different one. That's for, no. Oh, boy. But they don't want to say, gypsy moths. They have another name for it. I was just reading a forestry magazine. Anybody know that one? The term now?
It's a new name, I give them.
Yeah, to be politically correct.
Yeah,
Okay, then they built state parks, roads, everything had to be specific federal regulation. Then they had, this is the lunch hour in Harrisville. Then they would go back to their barracks, shoot the bull, play cards, go to the canteen, they could buy soda, 5 cents, go to the movies for a quarter in town or special rates. They had their bands, boys brought their instruments, they played other local teams or other local CCC camps, keep them busy, baseball team, football sometimes, and basketball in the wintertime. They would get the Grange, maybe hall, or the town hall, or the public school would let them use the gym. They had to teach these boys how to drive a truck. They're 18 years old, no license. And look at 15 trucks in a camp. Each boy just had to drive the truck and maintain that truck. They learned mechanics. They dropped out of school 8th grade. Let's teach them classes at night. So they started hiring teachers or people that went to college, and they would teach them the basics, reading, writing, get their high school diploma. They would get certificates for classes that would help them get a job. What did these boys, look at 1 billion tree seedlings, telephone lines, to the fire towers, dams, 3,000, almost 4,000 dams. Look at going up below Speculator. You'll see this beautiful dam on the Sacandaga. Imagine that, going to this island where there was campground, planting trees, fighting insects, blister rust. Let's see, do I have the new name up there? No. Forest fires, fighting fires. Truck trails, dams, and then to stop erosion, putting rocks or cribbing, that's called. Look at the parks that they built just in the Adirondacks, but all over the United States. Wherever you go, you will find parks built by the CCC. Greatest Generation. In the book, there's all the camps you're going to find all over the Adirondack and surrounding area. Could Brushton Camp, Canton Camp. Okay, and this is the Bolton Lake Camp. I'll be speaking there tomorrow night. World War II came, what would happen? We needed the boys now to fight. So that stopped them, but these boys were well trained by the army. So Hitler, they said, hated the CCC because they were trained. He had his own way of training young youths in Germany. So they went off to war. If you go to Speculator, you'll find the old camp buildings there. It was made into a 4-H camp. Now a private person owns the place. And these towers are still there. So if you ever go to Speculator, see that. How many been to Red Rocks in Denver? Okay. I saw Joe Cocker and the Steve Miller Band. 10,000 people, 10,000 people between these two big red rocks built over a 4-year period by the CCCs. Then I told you I used to have a lot of writers, illustrators come. So this guy, who's a comic book illustrator, Sam Glansman, he said, Marty, let's do something together. So I said, I'm in the Adirondacks. I heard a lot of stories. Let's do something like Believe It or Not. So Sam, if you ever read Outdoor Life, they have somebody writes a letter, illustrated. He did that for 6 years. he did comic books. Now, comic book versions are the big thing in libraries for adults and in children. If you ever go to a library now, you'll see one whole big section, graphic novels. The big cities have huge selections, even though it's a small library. Now, one of them I picked in the book of the 250 we did every week for 5 years. And I put them all in the books, 2 books. Okay, who is Noah Rondo?
Hermit.
A hermit, okay? And he lived up there, so those are books written by him. So I sent Sam a bunch of pictures and I would write about 770 words. And he did even the lettering. So so every week, this one of my favorites, okay? Franklin Roosevelt, okay? Now the question is, what mountain was in the Adirondacks was Roosevelt climbing when he heard?
Not Mercy.
10 points for Terry, Mount Marcy. Who was the president that was shot and later died? McKinley, 10 points. Okay. Who was Adirondack Murray? Famous guy. He was a minister, came from Connecticut, Guilford. He went to Boston, was a farm boy, became a minister. He was getting paid $21,000 a year, which would mean a lot today. Okay. So what he did is he went to the Adirondacks, hunting and fishing, hardly any roads, and he told stories to his people in Boston. They said, write a book. So what did he do? Murray's. It was rewritten, reprinted 8 times in 1 year, 1868. And when that book came out, guess what happened? Oh, let's go to the Adirondacks because there's fishing and hunting and all that, but there are hardly any roads there. So because this guy wrote that book, that was the spur that got people going. And if you go to Guilford, Connecticut, I've been at his grave. It's really neat. But look at this. His layout. So that's why you might want to pick up one of these books today. If you like nice, easy reading. I was thinking, why they never got some teachers to be able to buy a whole collection and just keep reading, kids reading. Who's French Louis?
He was a hermit and trapper up in the Casino Speculator area, I think.
Yeah, correct.
West Canada Creek.
Right.
Yeah, West Canada Creek, right?
And he would come at the end of the season with all his furs, and get pickled trunk, He is buried right next to the grocery store there. So people still put pennies and dimes on his grave or his gravestone or bottles, empty bottle of liquor. What is the Gillette murder? Why is this so famous in the Adirondacks? Mike?
That was, they were socialites, rich folks from down in New York City. I think they went out in the boat and one of them came back on the lake. Is that the one? Or am I
Close, yeah, that's good. Gillette, his family owned a factory.
the razors?
Okay, and Grace Brown was a worker. They were dating, she became pregnant. He said he didn't want anybody to know. He took go for a little trip on the Adirondack. So they went to Big Moose Lodge and they got into the canoes. And he said, oh, she drowned and it was an act, couldn't swim. But the thing is, they think he got a tennis racket and hit her over the head and threw her over. He was tried and convicted in, God, get the name of the town, but he was electrocuted. But look at, because of that murder in the Adirondacks, look at the movies and books that were written. Okay, with, what's her name? Taylor.
Let's take.
Liz Taylor, yeah. Yeah. Montgomery Club. Okay. Then the last one is, I started this, and all over the Adirondacks, people just know Lake George or Old Forge. That's it. They will not believe, they just go there constantly. I'm traveling all over, like today. You know, I know a lot of places. So I wanted to get the people to get exploring, just like I heard about this. I was in Elizabethtown, I was reading a Sunday newspaper, and in the centerfold it had about the Vermont 251 Club. This couple from Schenectady heard about it and started doing it. Well, it all started in 1954 when a Professor Peach, English teacher at University of Norwich, Vermont, he wrote in Vermont magazine, people get off your dupa. You know what your dupa is? Your rear end, and go and see all of our beautiful state of Vermont. How many have been to Vermont? Okay, you haven't been to Vermont yet. Yeah, put that on your list. What are some of the interesting places?
Oh, there's so many. I lived there for 3 years, so.
Where?
Bennington and Brandon.
Brandon, okay.
I would say like Sheldon Museum.
Oh, isn't that awesome?
All of Lake Champlain.
Lake Champlain there, gorgeous, okay. So I had the tough job 4 years going all over, gathering stories, staying with the people of Vermont. And I got to meet the guy who owns Vermont Country Stores. And he wrote a piece in my book, and they're going to be selling the book in Vermont Country Stores. So I said, if they could do it in Vermont, let's do it there. But my sister-in-law in Galway, an art teacher, Shenenda Hoa, she said, make it a passport book where they get it stamped or signed, okay? And what I did is I had local people, it's divided into counties, and I had local people write little history, interesting places to visit. So a place to journal, and when I went to Tupper Lake, I got that sticker. So sometimes you get stickers, sometimes, well, here's my book here. You could see, pass it around. Sometimes you get the town clerk. Look at this one. I went to this town and they gave me the town seal, gold. You never know what you're gonna find, you know, or you just meet somebody on the street. Hey, would you sign my book? Or go to a restaurant and look at the places you'll find. How many been to Krogan? Krogan bologna, or Wishy's ice cream? Look at the size there. So if you get to all of them, you get the Vagabond Award, named after the 4 vagabonds in the 1920s. Edison, Ford, Firestone, and John Burroughs. We had our first luncheon or dinner, and it was at Grant Lake. 102 people came to the 102 dinner. That was unbelievable. Well, then we had one at Whiteface. These are the 5 people that did. This guy, the coach, hockey coach for Colgate, he's got 3,000 signatures in his book. He's met 3,000 people. This page is just covered with signatures. The next one is going to be at Charlie's Inn. Anybody ever go there? Lake Clear, or Saranac Lake? Really old place. Now for the winner of the contest, the tabulating, while our computer is tabulating here.
Definitely Mike
Mike,
has
okay, you come up, Mike, get your prize.
100 points. Terry had 40. Kathy and I each had 10.
All right. Now, Mike,
Sorry.
you get, let me get out of the way of the thing. You get from the Bevan Bell Company that makes all the Salvation Army bells. It's a Wonderful Life, the movie, the bell.
Oh, yeah.
They still make bells and you get one of their bells.
Oh, you know, I feel like I got my wings.
Okay. Yeah, that's your,
Oh, okay, great.
you could go to the factory too. It's in East Hampton, Connecticut.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
So, let's see, hold it. One more thing. This is there's the, not so wonderful life. They make cowbells. Can you imagine they made sleigh bells for all over the world? I mean, it was, if you're gonna celebrate 2007, their 200th anniversary. Still making bells. So this is my family. This is my wife, Lynn, who puts up with me traveling. My eldest son, Matt, who married a girl from Bolivia, and she's studying natural doctor stuff. This is my baby, Ryan. He married Jenna from New Canaan in Stanford, and she gave us Luke, who's now 6, our twin girls, Lily and Anna, my daughter Christy, who married Matt from Maine, and they gave us, Kira, who's studying nursing in Tampa, and Lydia, who's at Tampa University. And who did I miss? Myself? I think we got everybody. Okay, me. So if anybody like a book, you get a discount. $5 off, so the $20 books are now 15. And a fire tower, the 25, you make it for 20. So I'd like to thank the museum here, St. Lawrence Museum, for having me, and thank you people for coming out, and all of you people who might be watching on Zoom. Class dismissed.
Thank you so much, Marty. So does anybody have any questions, either in person or if you're still with us online and you want to put anything into the chat or unmute yourself? Questions? Let me just double check that we don't have anybody with questions online.
Usually go through a lot of stuff, so we don't have. Yes, question.
I was brought up, I told you in Pierpont, I lived on the Buck Pond Road. Part of that road, the Taylor Creek State crosses that. They always called that part of the CCC road.
Yeah. Brazier Falls has a CCC road too.
Okay,
And there's one building left there, at Brazier Falls,
okay.
by St. Regis, east of it. Yeah,
No questions online, so
thank
we're
you.
good.
Anybody needs a book?
Thank you. We will end the recording now. Thank you so much for joining us online, and this recording will be available later to watch again or for people who couldn't make it today.
And you could buy books here or at Amazon.
We do carry the books in the store, so feel free to, come anytime to the museum. We can get them as well.